recording. Going to share. Okay. It should let me from beginning. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so I decided to do my presentation. This would be K through 4th, mostly K through 3, but you could stretch it to 4. And so it's about Patricia Polacco. I've heard some people pronounce it Poloco and Palacio. You know, whichever way fits you, but here she is. It's an author study. So I'd probably go about asking my students first. I mean, the obvious one, what is an author, right? We all know what that is. Someone who writes a book. And if I were to tell y'all to go home and, you know, go study your math skills or go study your, you know, your reading, or what would that mean if a teacher said, I need you to go home and study? What would you be doing?
Reading something, probably.
Writing.
Yeah, reading about something, writing about something. So an author study is reading and sometimes writing about an author, all right? So I'm going to go right into it. We're going to study Patricia Polacco. She lived in Michigan, Oakland, California. She was really close to her grandmother. She lived around many people of different religions, cultures, and backgrounds. She didn't learn to read until she was 14 years old, and her teacher helped her realize she had dyslexia. She did not start writing children's books until she was 41 years old. She earned her degree in fine arts and history. She had a Jewish background. Her family was Russian and Ukrainian, and she actually illustrated all of her books. Her parents were separated when she was 3 years old, so she went back and forth between her grandparents' house and her mom and dad's house. So a lot of the stories were based in rural Michigan, where her and her brother visited, and also in California, where their mom was. So a lot of her drawings and illustrations have that farm-like background from Michigan, and it has her grandmother in there who helped raise her. And she grew up on a farm, so there's animals always in her books. And so I would ask y'all, how many of y'all have ever lived on a farm or have ever had to take care of animals? Do you like animals? Do you like taking care of animals?
It can be fun. I took care of horses, but I mean, depending on the horse's personality, it was fun.
Yeah, and a lot of work. It can be a lot of work, like a lot of chores when you're living on the farm or something. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So here are some of her books. The Keeping Quilt, Bully, Thunder Cake, Thank You, Mr. Faulkner, My Rotten Red-Headed Older Brother, Babushka's Baba Yaga, which I almost used that book because that's really good. Pink and Say. So all of these are her books, and there are some awards that she won. And I'll get to it a little later, but you're going to notice there's a character in many of her books that is famous. So I just want to give you a couple seconds to hear her voice and see who she is. So I'm going to exit out of here for a second, and I would click on that, but here it is.
Can you guys hear?
I didn't know if it was just me. I can't hear anything.
I can't either.
I can't either. I wasn't sure if it was my computer.
Man, maybe it's my computer.
Oh
Okay.
no.
Well, can y'all see a little bit of what she's right? I mean, the kids would be able to hear, I guess, but can y'all see a little bit of what she's saying?
We can't see the YouTube. We're still on the PowerPoint presentation, I
Oh, let
think.
me see if I can stop it and share that then. Let me see if it'll let me share.
And I think if you're playing a video, I think there's a little box underneath it that you can click for it to share sound, your computer sound that you have to check, I think.
Right here?
No, when you share your screen.
Share screen here?
No, when it's like on the Zoom thing, when on the Zoom button, when it says share screen, when I had to play the video, I had to check a little box to say like share computer audio.
Oh no. Okay. Well, so basically she's talking about her grandmother. I'm afraid I'm going to lose time if I do that, but thank you for that. Okay. She's talking about her grandmother and living on a farm and how her grandmother was very special and was like a caretaker to her. And so after the video, it's a 1 minute and 25 seconds. And I could try one time. Let me see if it'll let me. Videos, here we go. Remote, more. Share computer sound. Okay, tell me if y'all can hear it now.
Talk to you. And we did.
Yes.
We'd go in and sit.
Let me rewind it for you. She's really a neat author. Okay.
Penultimate storyteller. She was from Russia, actually from the Ukraine, Belarusia. She had a thick accent. And every night she used to tell us tales because when I was young, televisions had been invented, but they were very expensive. And our family was poor. We couldn't afford one. So she used to do what she called fire talking every night. She'd put a fire in the fireplace. She'd pop popcorn. She would make fudge if we were really lucky. She'd pick snow apples fresh off from the tree outside of the kitchen. My brother and I'd go in with our little bowls, and she'd put wedged apple and popcorn and fudge in the bowl, and then she'd say, "Go in, living room, because now I'm going to come in and fire talk to you." And we did. We'd go in and sit down, and she would explode into story. And we heard her stories thousands of times. And the beauty of telling, or even reading for that matter, but telling especially, is watching the person's eyes that you're telling the story to. And if their eyes get bigger, you add stuff to the story. And she certainly did. I do know whenever she finished a story, my brother and I would always lean into her and say, "Okay, that story you just told, is that a true story?" And she'd look at us over her glasses and say, "Well, of course it's true story, but it may not have happened."
Okay. Thank you. So I would go back over here. And so I would just ask y'all questions, like the students, like how many of y'all have ever been raised by a grandmother, had a grandmother live with you, or visited your grandmother, you love your grandmother? What experiences do you have? Y'all have any experiences with your own grandmother?
I never lived with my grandmother, but I did visit her a lot. And we always had a special tradition of making pancakes in the morning that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother, she lived in Spain, and so she would come to visit sometimes, but I don't speak Spanish. And but even so, her expressions and her stories, and with my mom translating, it was enough where I just felt like we could still communicate just because she was so expressive with, her language.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we all have in common with her some shared experiences with grandparents, or someone who can be like an acting grandparent, if you live in a blended family or whatnot. So some of Paloka's themes, obviously, with her experiences with her grandmother, telling stories and living with her grandmother. So a lot of it involves difficulties children face or go through. Some of them are tough issues with family and friends, and cultural issues, and about being you and embracing where you come from. Since her grandmother was from Russia, some of her books kind of deal with people from different cultures and coming together with shared experiences, no matter what background they have. So that is something that's really neat about her books. Who is Babushka? Poloko lived much with her grandmother, who is from Russia, and in Russia, babushka means grandmother, and they wear these scarves over their head, not like a hijab, but scarves that just like protect the weather. It's sort of traditional. Sometimes it means dignity in women, usually part of a woman's dress, and it's just something that people associate that with grandmothers in Russia. And here's part of their culture. They have the little Russian dolls. I don't know if y'all seen those, and you put them in one another.
I was just gonna tell you, I don't know, are you doing your PowerPoint right now?
Yeah, can you see it?
It's still on the YouTube.
How?
I don't know. Zoom is so weird. I just wanted to tell you.
No,
just
thank you,
so
thank you. Okay, let me stop sharing and see this. Thank you for telling me. This is
You're
horrible.
welcome.
And I can go back because it was just one slide. Can
Yeah,
you
we
see
can
now?
see it. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So here are the tough issues in the cultures and stuff like that. And here's Babushka. So you see the grandmother, and here's her scarf. And here are the little Russian dolls. So you know those ones that go in and you take them out and they get smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the Russian flag. So those are the colors there. Sometimes when you read about her in her books, you'll see characters that resemble her grandmother or are her grandmother. Sometimes a parent is not always around. Usually her grandmother is just there taking care of her. And again, the characters just face situations that they're up against with coming from a different background. I think she had a lot of experience with that. Maybe standing out or being different. Have y'all ever had a similar experience where you have felt left out or being different?
I mean, yeah, I moved to New Mexico from like rural Missouri, so it was definitely a very different experience to kind of be in a school where it was like 90% Hispanic, and I was, you know, anyway, it was just very, very strange experience. I was kind of called a hillbilly and a hick for a long time of that period. So yeah, it definitely felt kind of left out or kind of pushed out.
Oh no. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. I'm over it now.
Yeah. No, it's like that at some of the schools I teach too. It's reversed or it's similar. Yeah, I understand. My daughter went to Gritsky, and then middle school here in Austin, and that was predominantly white. And then she moved back with her friends, which was like more a mix at O. Henry Middle School in Austin. And there's just the culture's more half and half. So I totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
Has anybody else had an experience where they have felt left out?
I mean, I'm sure I have. I'm trying to think.
Yeah.
I guess I grew up kind of sheltered. So even like as I got older, like in college, just kind of having conversations, they talk about things and I'm like, I really don't really know. I didn't watch that show. I didn't have cable. I didn't have this. And so I guess I kind of felt a little bit left out with some of those conversations.
Yeah. A lot of her books kids can relate to. Just like I said, some of the stories and the books I'll hold up in a minute. I'll show you. So I just kind of would tell the kids, because I know some of the kids that I teach at Title I schools, sometimes their grandparents are their caretakers. So, I would tell them sometimes we have experience with parent separation or having to move to another school, living with our grandparents or visiting them. And sometimes our grandparents do end up being like the sole caretaker, and our grandparents can love us and do love us like a mother. So, you'll see that in a lot of her books as well. Some of the awards that she's received, and she has tons of awards, so I just try to pick some of the most recent. She's on the New York Times bestseller list. She got the Library of Congress and the President of the U.S. awarded for The Pink and Say, the book that was shown earlier. Sidney and Taylor Award for The Keeping Quilt, the 20th anniversary edition. So she's just received like so many awards. It was just so many to count. And the book that I really wanted to just hyper focus on that would go with the makerspace is Babushka's Doll. So just kind of looking at the text and illustration themes and possible connections from her childhood, and maybe something similar to our lives, just the author characters and, you know, Babushka herself. So here's Babushka's doll. Y'all can see that. And it just starts off with a little girl, like, kind of on the farm visiting. So here's the illustration. Because it wasn't that Natasha was a truly naughty child. She just never understood why she had to wait for things. Babushka, Natasha said, for in Russian, babushka means grandmother. Please stop doing the laundry and push me in the swing. My darling child, Babushka said, I have to do the laundry first. Would you like to help me? No, said Natasha, I want to swing now. So what do y'all notice? I guess I would ask the kids right away in the illustration. Who's a character you notice in there right away? That's from her childhood.
Is there a way for you, it's showing the PowerPoint, so the screen, your screen is super small. Is it small for y'all?
Let me see if I can stop sharing it, and then maybe y'all can see it bigger.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Is that better? Okay, good.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I noticed Babushka and her like colorful, I don't know, multi-texture pattern, I guess, clothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Babushka, that's her grandmother. So sometimes authors use their childhood experience and put that in there. Aren't you finished yet? I want to go for a ride in the go-kart. My precious, Babushka said, I must hang up these clothes while the sun is shining. But the sun will be shining all day. I want to go now, Babushka, take me. So I would just tell the kids, like, patience, and have they ever experienced a time when they wanted something done right now, you know? Babushka went to feed the goats. Natasha followed. But I'm hungry too, Babushka. My stomach is making noises. I want to eat now. Don't be selfish, darling, said Babushka. These poor creatures need to be fed. They cannot fix their own lunch. And now I am finished, said Babushka, and now we will have lunch. She took a kettle down from a high shelf. Natasha looked up on the shelf where the kettle had been, and there was a little doll she had never seen before. Is that your doll, Babushka? She asked. Yes, dear. It was my doll when I was a little girl like you. Did you play with her all the time? Asked Natasha. No, my dear. I played with her only once. Only once. I have finished my soup now, said Natasha. May I hold the little doll just for a little while? Babushka got the doll down from the high shelf. Yes, it is just the right time for you to play with her, said Babushka. She handed the doll to Natasha. I'm going to the store for groceries, she said. You may play with the doll until I get back. As soon as the door closed behind Natasha's grandmother, something happened. The little doll began to move. She jumped to her feet and did a little dance. For a moment, Natasha was a bit frightened, but then the doll called, Come on, Tasha, let's go out and play. Natasha and the doll ran and ran until Natasha could run no more. As soon as Natasha sat down to catch her breath, the doll said, Get up, Tasha, you get up now. I want to play. I'll swing you on the swing, Natasha said. Whee, said the doll squealed. Push harder, I want to go higher. Natasha pushed the doll higher and higher, but soon she grew tired. Don't stop, Tasha, cried the doll. Don't stop, I want you to swing me higher. I'll take you for a ride in the go-kart, Natasha said. Oh, goody, Tasha, the doll chirped, and don't you slow down. You better keep going as long as I want. Do you hear me? As long as I want. Soon Natasha couldn't lead the go-kart any longer. I have to stop, said Natasha. I need to rest. Now I want to eat, said the doll. Poor Natasha was very tired, but she tried her best to make lunch. Babushka's doll spilled the tea, she sloshed the soup from her spoon, and she flung noodles over her head. Then she pounded her fist in the mess and laughed and laughed. Suddenly, she stopped laughing and started to scream. My dress, Tasha, it's all dirty. I want you to wash it. You wash it right now. Natasha washed the little dress and hung it on the line. Then she ironed it and put it on the doll. You didn't do it right, said the doll. My dress is all wrinkled. Natasha began to cry. I'm just a little girl, she said between sobs. I wish you were just a doll. My darling girl, a voice called out. Why are you crying, my precious child? Babushka, sobbed Natasha. Your little doll came to life and she was very naughty, and all she wanted me to do was work. She never let me rest. She made me iron her dress, and I don't even know how. I'm just a little girl. There, there, Babushka said. You must have had a bad dream. Maybe, said Tasha. Her grandmother smiled and held Natasha closer. From now on, you can play with the little doll anytime you want. No, thank you, Babushka, Natasha said. Once is enough. Babushka picked up the little doll and put her back on the high shelf. It looks like you had quite a day, she said softly. The little doll gave Babushka a wink and went back to being just a doll. And Natasha turned out to be quite nice after all. So then I would ask the kids if there was anything they noticed from her childhood or anything, any like similarities they noticed between Babushka and the grandmother. Did y'all notice any like physical appearance or clothing or personalities with the grandmother and Natasha? I know, it's so late. They're tired. Well, I would have asked them like her dress is the same. So I would have like, talked about how the grandmother made her dress and, talking about the farm and things like that. So I would have went to that. And then let me go back to the screen. Can y'all see the screen?
Yes.
And I just kind of would have held up another book, kind of showing there's another Babushka in this book, but she meets a little boy who is going through the times of segregation, and then she's going to talk about some of her heritage and her family and the Jews. And so she just always does that with like struggle and culture and things like that. So that's just one example. And then for my maker space, I was going to have the kids just make a babushka doll. For the boys, just have a cutout. And of course, I can't exactly show you guys. I don't have you here physically, but something like this where they just have a pre-cut out, depending on the grade level, like kindergarten, I would have it pre-cut and have material and they can glue, and just have a little scarf there for them. So just, they can write something on the back, something they learned about the author, write down one thing you noticed from the book or one thing you learned about her, something like that. So that would be it.
Very cute.
Yeah. I like that.
Thank you guys. I know it's late.
I know.